Mother's Day is one of those special occasions that, you know, we just really can't adequately say what mothers mean. But I want to start off this morning with a little quiz. I got the information I'm sharing with you from the 2012 U.S. Census Bureau. I have a series of 12 quiz questions, so if you have a bulletin, please take it. And if you would, underline the answer you think is correct, and then when I give you the right answer, circle it. Hopefully it'll be the same one, but if not, then you'll be able to tell which ones are correct. First question. How many mothers were there in the U.S. in 2009? These are in millions now. How many of you think 64.4 million? Nobody? You are correct. It's not that. How many of you think 77.4 million? One. Okay, two, three. Okay, very good. How many of you think 85.4 million? Okay, a few more. How many of you think 90.4 million? The correct answer is actually 85.4 million. Very good. How many U.S. women become first-time moms each year? How many of you think it's A, 1.5 million? Okay. B, 2.5 million. 1. Okay. C, 4 million. Okay, a few more. And D, 6 million. Okay. Correct answer is actually C, 4 million. Okay, I think that's what most people voted for, actually. The average age of first-time moms in the U.S. is, how many think it's A, 21? Used to be younger, but it is not now. B, 23. Okay, several hands there. C, 25. Okay, I think that's the most popular so far. Or D, 28. Okay, a few. Correct answer is C, 25. Okay, number 4. What percentage of U.S. moms with infants are in the workforce? Okay, these are moms with newborn babies in the workforce. How many of you think it's A, 35%? How many think it's B, 55%? Okay, a few hands. C, 75%. Oh, there's the most popular so far. D, 85%. Okay, a few. Correct answer is actually B, 55%. Okay, question number 5. How many single mothers are there in the United States? How many think it's A, 2 million? B, 5 million. Okay, a few hands there. C, 8 million. Okay, several. D, 10 million. Correct answer is D, 10 million single moms in the United States. Number 6. What month of the year are the most babies born? Actually, anybody know this one? You don't have to say the answer, but anybody know which month most babies are born? August is correct. C, August is the correct answer. Guys, I didn't really want you to blurt it out. I was going to go through them, but once it's out there, it's kind of out there. Okay, I won't do that again. Okay, number 7. What percentage of U.S. women become mothers by age 44? How many of you think it's A, 76%? B, 81%. Okay, a few hands there. C, 86%. Okay, several more hands. D, 90%. Okay, the correct answer is actually B, 81%. Although, in 1976, the answer was 90%. Since 1976, between 1976 and today, the number has dropped by 9%. More women choose not to become moms at this point.
I think a key word there is lions to them.
What now?
I think a key word there is lions to them.
Oh, okay. Yeah, oh yeah, definitely not. Yeah, if it was at 44, they didn't become moms, that number would be small because most moms have children before that. But yes, key word there is by. By the time they're 44. So yeah, that means, usually a mom, if she's going to be a mom, she's made that choice by 44. I want this morning's message to be practical. A few years ago, I got an email from a friend who said, I have decided to quit spanking my children when they misbehave, and my wife and I have been looking for alternative methods of disciplining our children. He said, I have sent a picture to you of a system of child correction that seems to work, and you can share this with others. So, Vanessa, would you go ahead and put it on the screen, please? Now, let me be really, really clear. I don't want the church to get sued. This is a joke, okay? Well, I am not suggesting that when your kids misbehave, you put them on the front of your car and drive 99 miles an hour. Let me just be really clear. If you do that, you are not doing that with my encouragement. Please understand that, okay? So make sure you don't go that route. Seriously. Being a parent is an incredible responsibility. My favorite part of the video was when it put all those different things that moms do, and then at the end it flashed within the last 24 hours. Because that is the way being a mom is. They do... What do they not do? I mean, that's really the better question. I watch my wife at home with the kids, and it always amazes me. It does. I truly mean that. Proverbs 31, where we're going to be focusing our attention this morning, is found on page 504 if you're using one of our Bibles. Proverbs 31 supposedly describes the perfect wife or mother. And for a long time I stayed away from Proverbs 31 because this woman, frankly, just seems to totally have it together. Almost so much so that you look at her and say, how could anybody be all of those things? But it's interesting, this woman is active in the business world. She's active in the home. She seems to have it all. And I think that's really interesting that although this was written hundreds and hundreds of years before Jesus, it relates so well to our time because so many moms today, they're trying to do it all. And I mean, it's overwhelming, isn't it? For those of you moms who are trying to do it all, you're in a workforce, you try to be a good wife, you try to be a good mother. You're trying to do it all, and it's truly overwhelming. Well, I don't want this morning's message to be a discouragement to you. I want to encourage you. But I want to do it as I challenge you, and then also I have some challenges for those of us who are not mothers, as far as how we should deal with our mothers and our spouses as they are mothers. Let's read Proverbs 31. I'm going to begin with verse 10, and we will actually go all the way through verse 31. Here is what Solomon writes. He says, "Who can find a virtuous and capable wife? She is more precious than rubies. Her husband can trust in her, and she will greatly enrich his life. She brings him good, not harm, all the days of her life. She brings wool and flax and busily spins it. She is like a merchant ship, bringing her food from afar. She gets up before dawn to prepare breakfast for her household and plans the day's work for her servant girls. She goes to inspect a field and buys it with her earnings. She plants a vineyard. She is energetic and strong, a hard worker. She makes sure her dealings are profitable. Her lamp burns late into the night. Her hands are busy spinning thread, her fingers twisting flax. She extends a helping hand to the poor and opens her arm to the needy. She has no fear of winter for her household, for everyone has warm clothes. She makes her own bedspreads. She dresses in fine linen and purple gowns. Her husband is well known at the city gates, where he sits among the civic leaders. She makes belted linen garments and sashes to sell to the merchants. She's clothed with strength and dignity, and she laughs without fear of the future. When she speaks, her words are wise, and she gives instructions with kindness. She carefully watches everything in her household and suffers nothing from laziness. Her children stand up and bless her. Her husband praises her. There are many virtuous and capable women in the world, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceptive, and beauty does not last. But a woman who fears the Lord will be greatly praised." Reward her for all she has done. Let her deeds publicly declare her praise. Would you pray with me? God, I thank you for these challenging words, and I thank you for our moms, for our spouses, and God, just the way they so enrich our lives. I pray that you would bless our time together, and again, bless each mom who's here. In your name I ask these things. Amen. Now, before I begin, I wanted to actually show you something, and we couldn't figure out a way to get it on the screen. But Proverbs 31 is actually a very interesting thing. At the beginning of verse 10 and at the end of verse 31, it makes the same point. And then actually, if you go through, it makes a series of points that lead over to the central point, and then it makes a series of points that go back like this, and they are balanced. It starts with the blessing of a good mother, of a good wife, and then it talks about how a husband is benefited by his wife, and the children praise her, the wife works hard, and basically it makes those points, and it starts, and they match up all the way to the center. And then it makes a central statement of she even helps her husband achieve success. And then, but it's interesting because it's a poetic tool that we don't see in the English language, but it is there. And actually, the end of each statement is the first letter of the beginning of the next statement in Hebrew. It's a beautiful poem that Solomon has written for the mother of his children. And he is praising her, he is recognizing her. And I wish I could show it to you because it really makes a really cool point. But really, that's not the ultimate point. Proverbs 31 challenges us with what this wonderful woman is like. And let's start with this. Let's start by talking about the blessing of a good woman. This part of the passage begins by telling us something special about this godly wife and mother. It says she is, well, what does it say about her in verse 10? She's what? She's more precious than rubies. You know, if you think about it, you absolutely cannot put a dollar value on what your mother has given to you. There is no way. Every once in a while I see children who grow up without the influence of a mother, and it's sad. And it truly is sad. Abraham Lincoln once said, "No man is poor who has a godly mother." So true. Let me be really clear. This is not a political statement I'm getting ready to make, but I saw an interview this week with Ben Carson, one of the people who's running for president. And I'm not trying to promote him, but he made a statement about his mother. When he was young, his father abandoned the family. Actually, the father had two families, and they didn't know about it. And then when his mother found out, she threw him out. But this mother basically turned her sons' lives around. And he would be the first to say, "Without my mother, I'd be nothing." And this man now has 60 honorary doctorates. Now, I'm not telling you this. I'm not trying to tell you to vote for somebody. I'm wanting to make a point. This man who has been so incredibly successful in life says, "It all goes back to my mom." In the very truest sense of the word, this mom is worth her weight in gold. In fact, look at the statement in your notes. Okay, the blessings of a good woman. Look at the next statement in your notes. A godly woman is like a rare jewel. She is worth more than anything else you can imagine. And therefore, women, I want you to know, when you mothers, the influence you have on your children can literally not be measured. It's beyond that. We turn out the way we do in large part because of our parents. Because of especially our mothers. Mothers have so much influence. I mean, it just almost cannot be overstated. And there's another statement he makes. He says it's especially important. Well, look back at verse 10 and 11. Who can find a virtuous and capable wife? She's more precious than rubies. Verse 11, her husband can trust in her, and she will greatly enrich his life. This is a woman who is the ultimate caliber. Is she perfect? Let me be really, really clear. Are there any perfect moms here? Okay. Even us kids can shake our heads no. Because nobody's perfect. But just because they're not perfect doesn't mean that they are not literally worth their weight in gold and more. Because our moms have such influence on us. And I'm not telling anybody you need to be perfect to be a good parent, because you don't. That's not the point. But mothers are literally worth their weight in gold. They're like a rare jewel. They make such a difference in our lives. And then verse 11, he says, and the heart of their husband can trust in them. They're trustworthy. These mothers not only tell you what to do, they show you what to do. They're not only reliable when you're watching, when you're talking to them, but you know that they are in your corner regardless. It's not a question of whether they are committed to you, because you just know that they are. In fact, that's what the next statement in your notes say. Women like the one in Proverbs 31 can be trusted. There really is no greater statement you can make about somebody than that one. You can trust them. And there is no greater accusation you can make against somebody than they're not really trustworthy. You really can't rely on them. They'll tell you one thing and they'll do something totally different. You can't really rely on what they're saying. But this woman, she sets the ultimate example. When she tells you something, you can absolutely take it to the bank. That's this kind of mom. And that brings us to the second trait I want us to look at. Not only are we looking at the blessing of a good woman, but I want to look at the godly character of a good woman in verses 13 to 27. This is by far the most lengthy section of the passage. There's so much here, in fact, that we can't go through all of it, but much of what Solomon says comes through loud and clear. There's no way to read verses 13 to 19 and think this woman has a lazy bone in her body. You see it? Verse 13, she finds wool and flax, she spins it. Verse 14, she's like a merchant ship bringing food from afar. Verse 15, she gets up before dawn to prepare breakfast for her household. Verse 16, she inspects the field and buys it. Verse 17, she's energetic and strong and a hard worker. Verse 18, she makes her dealings profitable. Verse 19, her hands are busy spinning thread, her fingers twisting fabric. Do you read anything there about this woman? Except the fact that she is one incredibly hard worker. Now, I'm not going to go through the list with you and say, okay, moms, are you all those things? Because every mom is different. Some moms are morning people, some moms are not morning people. It's okay. You don't have to do every single thing, okay? You don't have to do that. But here's what you need to do. You got to be involved in your family. You got to be working to meet their needs. And isn't that what moms do day in and day out? Don't they find what's needed and they just do it? Sometimes us dads don't do a real great job at that, but moms, they just kind of step up to the plate, and if it needs to be done, they do it. I tell you what, the Richards house would be a mess if it weren't for my wife. Okay, guys, just nod your head yes. It is true. My wife's nodding her head yes, absolutely. I need her, and I thought of Kelly when I read this. She's such a hard worker, always going after stuff. And my suspicion is that not only am I thinking of my wife, but many of you are thinking of your own spouses. Because that's what moms do. They just jump in and do what needs to be done. This wise woman, instead of having a bad attitude about what she's got to do, she jumps in and does it, and she actually finds meaning from it. She finds stuff. She does whatever it takes to make her family successful, to make sure that they're well cared for. In fact, verse 18 focuses on the end of the day, and verse 15 focuses on the beginning of the day. From morning to night, this mom's involved in the lives of her family, in taking care of them, providing for them. Whether it's the start of the day or the end of the day, this mom's at work. She is, you might say, burning the candle at both ends. Moms, isn't that sometimes what you do? You start early and it goes all the way to the end of the day. Just one thing after another, you just stick with it. Okay, moms, you can nod yes, that's fine. It's the way being a mom sometimes is. So here's the next statement I want you to get. Great moms make any sacrifice needed for the family. Now, you read this woman's story, and she just almost seems perfect, doesn't she? I mean, she's working hard. She's doing whatever's needed for the family. Verse 14, she makes her husband successful. I mean, she is doing practically everything. She's a successful mom. She's a successful wife. She's successful in business world. She's godly. She's well loved by her husband and her kids. She's working hard to make sure her children are well cared for. And sometimes successful people appear to be succeeding almost effortlessly. But anything profitable, anything really meaningful, is almost never effortless. Strong families don't just happen. They happen because we as the parents are involved in loving our kids, in setting example for our kids, in working for them. So let me give you another statement that I want you to be sure you understand. Strong families are built when the family is a priority. This mother's not only committed to personal success, but she works hard to make her husband successful. We're told in verse 23 that he's respected at the city gate. The city gate in those days was the center of government. He's a civic leader, and everything in the passage about him relates back to the fact that she has helped make him successful. There is truth. Behind every successful man is a great woman, absolutely. We are a team. That's the way it works. Everything in this section relates to this woman. The point is that she has helped make everybody in the family who they are. You know, I think back about lessons I've learned from my own mom. Mom didn't just tell me what to do. She showed me what it means to live a godly life. And, you know, so much of who I am today comes from my mom and my dad. And moms and dads, that'll be true for you too. It'll be true for your own children. You have enormous impact on your children. And I'm not trying to guilt you, make you feel like you got to be perfect, because nothing could be further from the truth. But we have incredible influence in the lives of our children, beyond what we can even begin to imagine. I love a story that well-known Christian author Max Lucado tells, and I'm sure you can relate to it. I want to read you part of the story. He says, imagine you come home from home cranky because a deadline gets moved. Your wife comes home cranky because the daycare forgot to give your 5-year-old daughter Emily her throat medicine. Each of you is wanting a little sympathy from the other, but neither of you is in the mood to give anybody anything. So there you both are at the dinner table, cranky and grumpy, and Emily, your 5-year-old daughter, doesn't understand what's wrong, but she knows something is, and it comes out when she is asked to say the blessing, and this is her prayer. Emily folds her hands as she's been taught to do. The two of you bow your heads, Lucado says, but not your hearts. And this is the prayer Emily prays. God, it's Emily. How are you? I'm fine. Thank you. Mom and Dad are mad. I don't know why. We've got birds and toys and mashed potatoes and each other. Do you get that? Maybe you can get them to stop being mad. Please do, or it's going to be you and me the only ones having any fun tonight. Amen. And Lucado says, instantly the prayer is answered. Because suddenly your perspective changes. And you realize the stuff that you get all worked up about, most of the stuff we get all worked up about in life is really the little stuff, isn't it? You know, we get all worked up about, somebody does the wrong thing, somebody doesn't do everything they should do. And we get all worked up at those little things. And really, being a mother is not about what you do on one day. Did you hear that? It's not about one day. It's about 18 years. And then when they leave home, does it stop then? No. Those of you with grown children, do you stop worrying about them when they're gone? It's harder. I mean, it's just the way it is. Being a mom's a lifetime job, and it's never really over. The way you carry it out changes, but you don't ever quit being a mom. And dads, you don't ever quit being a dad. It's a lifelong job. And that brings us to the final point that I want to share in the message this morning. I want to talk about the appreciation of a good woman. The kind of woman that should be appreciated by her family, the moms. Notice her children recognized how blessed they are to have a mom like this. See it there in verse 28? Her children stand up and bless her. Now, let me ask. Okay, kids, those of us who are kids. How many of us tell our moms every day, wow, Mom, we are so fortunate to have you? Question. Mom, do you hear that every single day? No. You don't even expect it. Understand. But doesn't it make your day when your kids recognize that you're blessed, that they are blessed to have you? That's the point. His point is not that literally 365 days a year, the kids are getting over to their mom's house and saying, Mom, we are so fortunate to have you. That's not the point. I mean, it's a good idea, but probably not reality. But these kids are regularly telling their mom, oh, Mom, you're the one. You make my life so much better. And it's true, isn't it? Moms don't have to be perfect to be this. That's not what we're talking about. Let me make a statement, and this is totally true. Your life would be totally different if it were not for your mom. Every single person here. Every single one of us. We would be totally different people if it weren't for our moms. And before you think I'm talking about negative things, I'm not talking about negative things. I'm talking about positive things. You are a better person because of your mom. And I'm sure there are some people who have had moms that didn't perfectly do the job. In fact, every person. But that's not the point. We are better because our moms invest their lives in us. Because they get down into our lives and care and meddle and love and push and challenge. Am I wrong? No. They make our world better. They make us better people. That's what's involved here. And far too often, moms do all kinds of things, and the rest of us in the family just take it for granted. Am I right, guys? Don't we take our wives and mothers for granted way too often? Oh, come on, guys. I should see every head going up and down. I mean, of all days, this day we ought to recognize, I mean, seriously. Okay, let me put it a little differently. For all of us dads here, how would you like to do what she does? Well, I tell you what, I couldn't do what my wife does. I try to tell her regularly that I appreciate her. Because I couldn't do what she does. She's wired up to... That woman can juggle about 10 things in the air at the same time. I get more than 2 in the air and one of them crashes. Guys, can't you relate? I mean, we can't keep 10 things in the air all at the same time. And our wives do it and make it look easy. Oh, my lands. I can't do that. Now, notice verse 28. Her children stand and bless her. Notice the end of verse 28. Notice what it says. I want you to read it with me if you've still got your Bible open. Her husband praises her. Here's what he says. There are many virtuous and capable women in the world, but you surpass them all. Do you see what he does? What is the husband telling his wife? You're the best. You're the best, hon. You're the best. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. You're just the cream of the crop. You're the very best. Now, I understand, husbands, we tease our wives sometimes. I understand all that. But every mother, every wife should know that their husband is their biggest fan. I'm pausing because I want you to think about that. We should be our wives and our mother's biggest fan. Now, I can already hear I can see somebody thinking, well, you don't know my wife. See, I knew somebody was thinking that.
Human style.
But I'm telling you, guys, we ought to be communicating to our wives that they are so special. They're great moms. They do so much to make the family successful. We ought to be telling them regularly what this husband, what this wise husband, Solomon, in verses 28 and 29, see it there again at the very end of verse 28. Her husband praises there many virtuous and capable women in the world, but you surpass them all. Look at verse 30. Charm is deceptive and beauty does not last, but a woman who fears the Lord will be greatly praised. The final thoughts in this section, notice what he says. Beauty's fleeting. Now, it's not that people don't chase beauty. I mean, we have a cosmetics industry that is billions of dollars. Laura is a beautician, a cosmetologist. Is it easy to make a person beautiful when they're a little older than it is when they're younger? It gets a little harder as we get older. That's the point I'm trying to make. In fact, it's a losing battle. No, stick with me. No, I'm not digging a hole. I'm not backing out of this hole. It gets harder and harder as we get older. True? And you do have to show up. I understand that. This is a joke because I missed my last hair appointment with Laura, and I didn't even know I missed it. Usually I always know I missed them because my timer goes off and I say, oh, I missed it. This time I didn't know I missed it. She said it had been almost double the length of time usually but regardless. But here's the point. It's kind of a losing battle. You're not going to look like you did at 20 when you're 80. It's just not going to happen. You can spend 24 hours a day at Laura's place and you will not look at 80 like you do at 20. It just won't happen. You would be rich if you could. Absolutely. But here's the deal. It's a losing battle to try to look like you did when you were a kid, when you're not a kid. But you can become more godly with each passing year. That's not the same. That's what really counts. You know, when I think of my mom, I don't think of what she looks like. I think of who she is. You know what I mean? I mean, it's not that I don't see her face, not that I don't. I mean, I know who she is and I identify her with what she looks like, but that's not why I love her. I love her because she's Mom. Right? I mean, that's you don't love. If you love somebody because of how they look, you don't really love them. That's just the down and dirty. If you love them because of what they look like, you really don't love them at all. You love them because of who they are. That's what this husband's saying. You know, honey, you're the very best. Charm, hey, people can be sweet and then it can be all an act. People can be beautiful and you don't keep it. As we get older, it becomes harder. It's just not automatic. But honey, you're the best of the best because of who you are. That's what Solomon is challenging all of us. Solomon is challenging every woman to be a godly woman, and he is challenging every husband and son and every daughter to look back to their mom and say, hey, Mom, thank you. You're the very best. So, notice then he says, the woman who fears the Lord will be greatly praised. This is somebody who has a respect for God. Actually, that statement about fearing the Lord is the theme of the entire book of Proverbs. You find it first in chapter 1. Here it is at the very end of Proverbs. It's the theme which stretches over the whole book. And it doesn't mean we sit around trembling that God's going to strike us dead. That's not what it's meaning. It means we recognize that ultimately we answer to God. Okay? You know, if you're not a good husband, if you're not a good daughter or son, you know what? You're not going to answer to me. I'm not going to come to your house and say, hey, Joe, how you been to Joyce lately? I'm not going to do that. He doesn't answer to me. I'm not going to go over to Bob and to Clancy. I'm not going to do that. And I'm not going to come to you ladies and say, oh, how are you being to your own mom? That's not the point. But we all eventually will answer to God. That's where the fear of the Lord comes. It doesn't mean we're terrified. I mean, remember, God's rooting for you. But you know, part of when I was growing up, what made me sometimes scared of my mom was not a spanking that I might get, although I got some of those, certainly. I did, absolutely. Probably needed more than I got. But here's the deal. But I knew I answered to Mom. My dad would step in once in a while, but my mom stepped in every day. You know the difference? Oh, big time. I mean, when Dad got involved, it was a big deal because Dad didn't get involved that often, but Mom was there every single day. I mean, 24/7. I mean, that's just the way it was. So I want you to know, husbands, we are responsible to let our wives know that they are special. And let me give you one last statement. Respecting God is foundational to successful living. It's only when we realize that we answer to God and that ultimately we need to be communicating these things to the moms, and then we need to be living with God in view. That's really the point of fearing God. It's being aware that God's there. We're ultimately going to answer to Him. I like the way the Contemporary English Version translates the verse. It says, show her respect, praise her in public for what she's done. Simply put, if you're blessed with a good wife and a good mother, you ought to be telling her. Period. No, not period. Exclamation point. The way we parent has an enormous impact on our children. Let me conclude with a true statistical example. Two families from the state of New York were carefully studied by sociologists. In fact, what they did was they went back and found two families and they traced the family tree. They traced the family tree of Max Jukes and Jonathan Edwards. Okay? To see what happened in these two families. Max Jukes was a criminal. He married an equally self-centered woman. Among their 1,200 known descendants, here were the vocations. 310 were professional drifters. 130 were sent to prison for an average of 13 years each, 7 for murder. 100 became alcoholics. 60 were thieves. 190 were prostitutes. Of the 20 who did learn a trade, of all the family that they could trace, the 20 who learned a trade, 10 of them learned it in prison. That one family cost the state at least $1.5 million. And the study could find that nobody in the entire family ever made a significant contribution to society. The family of Jonathan Edwards was studied over the same period. Edwards loved God and his family deeply. He married a woman of similar character. Here's their history. 300 became pastors, missionaries, or theologians. 100 were college professors, 100 were attorneys, 30 were judges, 60 were physicians, 60 were authors. And among their descendants, 14 became presidents of universities. Numerous giants in American industry emerged from the one family. 3 were elected to Congress, and 1 became a vice president. Now, that is an extreme example, okay? You know what? Use my example. I don't think I'm going to have anybody become a vice president in my direct line. That's okay. We've had no college professors in my family history as far as I know. That's not the point. The point is, if you invest your life in your children and set the right example for them, it makes them better people. They go on an upward trajectory. Right?
Yes.
If you set a really terrible, awful example for them consistently, it creates a downward trajectory. Are there children who overcome that downward trajectory? Yes, but it is the exception, not the rule. Are there children who you set the right example and they still go off the cliff the wrong direction? Absolutely, but it is the exception, not the rule. So here's the point. Moms, be involved in your kids' lives. Do your very best. Answer to God. Pray for your children. Be the godly woman, and let that be the foundation for being the right kind of mom. Right? Men, be the right kind of dad. Love your wife. Tell her you know you are flat lucky to have her. Now, I know everybody's relationship's different. I know some men tease their wives all the time. That's fine. That's not a problem. But she needs to know that when it really comes right down to it, that you absolutely adore her. Am I right, ladies? Absolutely. I know I am. They want to know that that's the way we feel. They do. And we should tell them. And we should show them. That's just the truth. Would you bow your head with me and we will conclude with prayer. God, I thank you for my own mom. I am so incredibly blessed. I thank you that in spite of the fact that my mom is not perfect, she does love you, and I have never, ever in my entire life questioned that she loved me. I thank you for my wife and the great mom that she is. God, I thank you for all the moms who are here, and I pray that you would bless them. Help every person here to be who you want us to be. God, help us to turn to you for help, not just in the area of having a good family, but of being the people that you want us to be, of following passionately after you. Thank you, God, for all you've done for us, and thank you for giving us moms who love us. In your name we pray.